How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new horror movie, and that is The Strangers Chapter 2. This just came out September 26, 2025, was once again directed by Renny Harlin, and stars Madeline Petsch, Gabriel Basso, Emma Horvath, and Richard Brake. And for those of you guys who don't know the setup for the new Strangers movie, basically the idea for this trilogy is that Chapter 1 would be a remake of the original Strangers, but 2 and 3 would be direct continuations to the first movie, telling their own original story. And on top of all this, all 3 films were shot back to back, so they're all already in the can and waiting to be released. And I have to say, I bet the studio regrets shooting them this way. For real, the reception to the first movie was so incredibly poor that if they hadn't shot all 3 back to back, I 100% guarantee you we would never see these other 2 movies. I mean, take a look at The Strangers Pray at Night. That movie was a million times better than The Strangers Chapter 1, but no sequel for that. We're gonna do a reboot. And I will say, with Chapter 1, I mean, what really could they have done? You know, The Strangers is a classic, it's not that old, and they didn't really have any new interesting idea to make the remake worthwhile. So of course with that one, it was just a lesser, messier version of a fairly recent classic. I kind of knew Chapter 1 would be bad, but I thought maybe with Chapters 2 and 3, we would tell a new and different story, and I was really curious what the original story would be like, especially if it warranted all 3 parts. But no, hopes were dashed. This is actually the worst Strangers movie to date, and it is kind of a bizarre mess. But before we get into that, what's the setup for this movie? I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but the idea that kicks this movie off is we're taking place literally right after the events of the first movie. The main girl from the first movie is, of course, the sole survivor, and because of her injuries, she is placed in the hospital. It is a very Halloween 2 setup, but she's there, she's alone, her family is going to come get her, but they're a bit of a ways away. So we get a sense of isolation in this big, strangely empty hospital. Well, word passes around that she's actually survived, and the strangers show up at the hospital and chase her around for a little bit. And honestly, that's pretty much most of what this movie is just one big long chase sequence. We start off at the hospital, then we'll get a good bit in the woods. Later on, we'll be at like a stable or something, and we'll even get a random creature features section, which I'm like, why are we doing this? The sequences in general are okay. Like, the movie's shot and acted pretty well. Like, the craftsmanship is totally fine. It's just there's not much to it. If you want to see a chase and escape, oh no, there's killers after me, let's run around and do a few random sequences, at times it even turns into more of a survival movie. But if you want to see something like that, I guess it's done well enough. Like, this would probably be a pretty decent candidate for a lazy Saturday afternoon. I just want to find something on streaming. Hey, let's pop this on and turn our brains off. At the bare minimum, it is an okay run around, escape the killers movie, but there's really not much more to it than that. Like, character's a big one here, and we got to know this character a little bit from the last movie. Although that being said, I don't really remember that movie terribly well. And here, she's just paranoid and running around, and that's about all we get character-wise, so it's hard to really get invested, and it's hard to care too much, and the movie will constantly ask you, hey, who do you think the strangers are? But we're not given really enough information about any of the townsfolk to really care who the strangers are. and we don't really have enough about their characters or really any basic information to be able to puzzle it together. It's like the movie's asking which one of these cardboard cutouts do you think is one of the strangers. So yeah, there is a real suffering for character and plot in this movie. It's basically just bouncing between random sequences until the movie's over, and that is a big letdown. And on top of that, this movie just every now and then will throw out something kind of stupid and take you out of it. For example, the main girl at one point gets a gun, and then it's instantly out of ammo. It's been shot once, and it's out of ammo, like whoever loaded this gun loaded it with a single bullet, which was super strange. We also get a scene where the main girl's trapped in a car, and she's trying to kick out the car door to escape. However, the window on this car door is completely busted out, and she could have just crawled out the window, but she just didn't think of that. There's also a reoccurring problem with this movie where the strangers just know where she is. Like, she could run incredibly far away. The strangers legitimately shouldn't know, but they will just pop in there like they can just teleport to her location. And the only way this would ever make sense is if they maybe had like a secret GPS tracker put inside of her or something. I really don't know. There's also a scene that kind of kicks off the middle bit of this movie where she gets in a car of people that are trying to help her, and then she suddenly gets paranoid that maybe everyone in this car is one of the strangers, which I get. However, there's a big problem with this scene. There are 3 strangers, but 4 people in this car. 2 girls, 2 guys, not 1 guy. And the 4th guy doesn't really add anything to the movie. I don't know why he's there. And if you took him out, it would be the right number of people, and her suspicion would be much more valid. I really have no idea what 4th guy is doing in this movie, but it really makes her paranoia look kind of dumb because there's only 3 strangers. And of course, these people in this car will be kind of like suspects as to who the strangers might be. But again, side characters in this movie are not given any time or character, so it's like, you think it might be these people you hardly know? Maybe? I don't know. Why do I care? And as far as the mystery, and a lot of people said with the first Strangers movie they were worried they were going to over-explain everything and ruin it, and this movie constantly promises that. It constantly says, oh, probably in part 3 you're gonna find out the whole story and know everything about the strangers. Again, that's a promise for part 3, not anything that this movie actually does. I will say there is a little bit told about the strangers in the end of the movie. Not everything, but I guarantee you that's probably where part 3's going. However, we do get what I call the baby strangers segments. We follow these 2 kids, and yeah, there are 2 of them. I don't know why there's not 3. But we follow these 2 kids, and one of them's a creepy evil child, and we get what's honestly a fairly generic evil child story. And ultimately, where it winds up in the end, I feel that it didn't really pay out into anything major. I know that learning too much about them ruins the mystique, but at the same time, this was like the only new part of the movie. It's like we get this big long chase sequence that's kind of going nowhere. Maybe if we had learned more about the past, at least something would happen in this movie. But instead it's a fairly generic sequence that doesn't add enough, but does serve to tick off fans that don't want to know anything. So yeah, this really did feel like a middle bit that we did just because why do a duology? We have to do trilogies, right? I kind of feel like the first one being a remake, the third one's going to explain everything, which do we really want? And then this is just kind of the padding in the middle. It was just a big prolonged chase sequence, and if you're really into that cat and mouse stuff, it's a fine lazy day movie, but it's nothing to write home about, and is easily the worst Strangers movie so far. I am curious if some miracle will save part 3, or if we're going to watch a spectacular spectacular cataclysmic explosion. Not sure, but I'm in it this far. I guess I'll probably check out part 3. Whatever though. Here's hoping they do pull it around, but as it stands so far, I can't really recommend this beyond the lazy Saturday afternoon streamer, or for the people that are just into this franchise too deep and have to know what's happening. Not great, fairly generic, and just a chase and escape movie with very little plot or characters. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see more 2025 movies, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.